Well, good morning, everybody. Happy, beautiful Monday. We're back with Team Oz. Very happy to have our Focus on Australia back. We missed you. I mean, I know we had you on last week, but it seems like a while before
Yes.
that we didn't have you. So, very, very happy to have our beautiful Gabbi Chung, as always, looking glam gab. I think that's what it's called. Glamorous Gabby.
Yeah, thank you.
And of course, Morné and our awesome guest, Alec Kazmarek, who I correctly guessed is actually of Polish descent. So, welcome, Alex. Very, very cool to have you on Aquarius Rising Australia today.
Thank you,
And
Con.
very
My pleasure being
interested,
here.
yeah, sorry, and just very interested to hear about what you're going to bring to the table today as well. We're going to be talking Australian military, the transportation, the pedo stuff that goes down there, manufacturing. What were you saying off air? Sorry, I forget what you said about the manufacturing, Alex.
Basically, the manufacturing of ill health towards veterans. It's
Yeah.
a manufactured rehabilitation process that doesn't rehabilitate anyone, basically.
Wow.
Mm.
And look forward to hearing about that for sure. And then, of course, anything that happens in the military, the veterans afterwards. We also been hearing a lot from the American side on from the people we work with in America. Jessie Zabotar, she does a lot of work with the veterans there, and it's crazy to hear what they go through there as well. So I'm sure it can't be much better in Australia. In fact, we're hearing some very dodgy things about Australia nowadays. So
Yeah.
anyway, look forward to hearing about that. So over to you two guys. Thank you so much, Gabby and Alex. Yay.
You're welcome. Yeah, I connected with Alex, geez, probably a year ago now, just on good old Facebook, and I've just been following what he does, and he's an amazing voice for veterans, for people coming back from serving, and obviously all of the trouble and all of the issues with trying to come back into society after that, and the struggles that they go through. And also, I've really been, loving that you're bringing light to the huge amounts of suicides that we're seeing in society at the moment as well. So I think Alex is like an amazing example of someone that, he's got his mission, he's speaking out loudly about it in his community, and it just goes to show like what an individual can do, when you champion to a cause. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your experience in the military as well, because I think we're all starting to wake up to the level of corruption in the military, and even we talk a lot about ritual abuse on this channel, even the amount of cults that are really heavily embedded in the military. So we've got the Skull and Bones, the Black Sun. We've got such indoctrination into this particular system of control, and we can see how much our governments and the powers that be use the military as a tool to control the masses too. So it's one part looking in, but I'm really looking forward to hearing your experience from within the military, Alex, and how it was coming out of that as well. So yeah, where should we begin?
Wherever you like, Gabby. Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear, what drew you to, choose going into the military as a career, and how you sort of found the experience of going through the recruitment and the training. Because I've heard a lot of stories about that being quite indoctrinated and restrictive as well.
Yeah, sure. Look, like a lot of young men, I joined at the age of 19 because I had an obligation, a duty for the country. Believed I was doing the right thing at that point in time. I had absolutely no idea about what the world really was, why we have wars, and I certainly was not awake and aware about any sort of agenda. That's for sure. So like I said, like most young men, I joined just being a patriot and believing I was doing the right thing. As far as the training process went, it wasn't exceptionally out of the ordinary for me. I grew up pretty hard and pretty tough, and I actually adapted quite well to military life. I actually enjoyed it, and I really embraced the training and loved it. I do understand the indoctrination side, and I do know that there is a reason for that. You do need soldiers to go through a certain process. At the end of the day, you are creating war fighters, and you do need them to be on the same level. Unfortunately, the people who are creating the war fighters aren't as, well, let's just say they're belligerent and pretty nefarious in nature. Waking up to the actual agenda later on in life is probably one of the most soul-destroying things I've ever encountered in my life. And looking back, knowing part of that system at that time, you know, it's a difficult thing to overcome. But yeah, as far as the training and stuff went, I actually loved it. I had a bloody great time, and I learned a lot of skills and had more lived experience by the age of 30 than most grandparents. And, I took a lot of stuff away from it. Yeah, sorry. Whereabouts do you want me to lead into from there, Gabby?
Yeah. How did you? So, I guess we've talked a lot about the things that the military gets up to overseas, and obviously, we're sort of all sold that the military is going in to keep us safe, and there's always the bad people in other countries that the military is taking care of for us, etc. What did you, because I guess you're 19, young, thinking I'm serving my country and this is amazing. How far through being overseas and being in that environment did you start sort of questioning that maybe something else was going on? Was it like a quick wake up, or like it just gradually come through?
I was probably lucky because it was a slow, gradual awakening, so it wasn't overly traumatic to go through. But when we deployed on operations to Iraq, it was probably the first that it really dawned on me that we were using hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment and hardware to effectively hunt people, desert on donkey, and things just weren't adding up. We've got attack helicopters and drones hunting people on the opposite side of the earth that we've never met, who are dressed in rags, and a lot of things were going through my head at that stage. And then watching other coalition forces and the way they conducted themselves in country was quite disturbing. Probably not at the time, more afterwards when it really set into what had taken place on the ground and the way that we treated other people in their country, particularly when I look back at the First Nations people of our own country that I'm in and what has happened to them over the last 3 years. I realised that we've just done the same to another country.
Can I just ask you something? Sorry, Alex, you said there you guys were literally sent to hunt people who are dressed in rags. Can you expand on that a bit for us? Can we ask you who that was, where that was, what was your mission? I mean, I don't expect you to unfold details per se, but I'd be interested to know to what extent this is going on.
Look, I myself personally, most of our time spent in Iraq was actually, we did a lot of good, and we weren't actually the ones out per se hunting, innocent people or anything like that in any manner. Most of the people I served with were upstanding soldiers, absolutely soul of the earth, patriots, and they conducted themselves with utmost respect for the country whilst we were there. It was observing other units and other coalition forces and being aware of their activities on the ground that really started to make my ears prick up. Just the simple fact of, like I said, using very expensive military hardware to go in and create peace, it just doesn't make sense. We should have been over there. Well, we shouldn't have been there in the first place, but why would we be taking bombs to a country that needs schools built? It just didn't make sense. As far as people, actually, sorry, I've just got a vehicle coming up on me here. I'm parked on the top of a mountain. Apologies. I've got really bad service, and I'm in a mountain range in the Northern Rivers, and I'm blocking a main road.
Love it.
You've managed to get reception, so that's that's awesome. Heading up on the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, I suppose when you look at all war, what is it that we are doing there it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. Looking back, I cannot believe how naive I was asleep. And like I said, it's one of the most soul-destroying things for a soldier to awaken and have that realisation and then know that they were a part of that system at that time. And I just want to reiterate again, the people that I served with on military operations were well, for the most part, absolutely salt of the earth soldiers. They were the true patriots. They were good men and good women, and I have the utmost respect for probably 95% of them. But there was that 5% too, and I'm very aware of who they are and what they were up to also. Even when we were in Iraq, we had several members intercepted and repatriated back to Australia because they'd been found to have child pornography on their computers.
Wow.
That was one of the first things that really it's going to make you start asking some questions. But even though it was completely swept under the rug, the people were hidden back in other units. It's some really crazy stuff went on. But yeah, look, as far as military operations in Iraq went, like I said, I've got to reiterate that most of the guys that I serve with are absolutely beautiful people.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's interesting what you brought up about the, this small group being found with child pornography while they were over there serving. Because Australia, the ADF doesn't really offer us any reports on this kind of thing, which is pretty standard for Australia. We don't write the reports, so there's not a problem with anything. But, in the US, I've had a look through and, in their military prisons, child rapists are like the number one reason why people are in military prisons in the States. So, no matter how much is being swept under the rug, you've got to think out of all of the crimes that are occurring in the military, it's pretty concerning that the number one reason that, US military and ex-military are in military prisons is because of child pornography. And, we've seen all the evidence with the military contractors like DynCorp being actually caught in countries like Bosnia, human trafficking. So it's not that it has never been discovered, but like you said, it just seems to be completely pushed under the rug, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Look, it's those particular members were completely hidden away from everyone else. There was basically nothing came of it, and it was just a jaw-dropping experience to see as a young man. I could not believe what was occurring in front of me, and it just got deeper and deeper as my short career went on too.
Did you find were people that were caught up in the pornography scandal, were they high ranking within the military, or were they new? Whereabouts did they sit within the overall structure?
Low to mid ranks. But I'm aware of much higher ranking people. Obviously can't mention detailed particulars about them. But it didn't just start and end there either with the child pornography. There's a lot of things that went on that the dumbest person on the planet could have picked up what was happening. You know, we had people in our unit that would groom young soldiers and be caught having in homosexual activity with quite often
Oh, wow.
on a regular basis. And it was known. It was known within all the units as well. You know, we had known drug dealers within the units too. And I was just dumbfounded as a young man that how is it that I'm serving my country and I'm standing beside people who groom young men for sex and that sell drugs openly, and they don't get reprimanded for it. There's absolutely nothing going on. There's no hierarchy calling them out. They're not being charged. There's nothing going on at all. I wasn't aware of even what a Freemason was at that point in time, or any secret societies. Later on, though, I put all the dots together, and that whole picture just came rushing down like bricks. And I can pick them out in the street now. I can pick them out of the units and the battalions and the regiments. It's the military is absolutely riddled with them.
Wow.
Isn't it? I'm just sitting here thinking, though, when we look at the military, and we understand right now there really is, I mean, the strongest religion on the planet at this point is Satanism, right? So when we look at the military, I mean, and we look at the satanic way of doing things, it's all about rank and about power, and it's almost like has that militaristic, and it's almost like, to me, that's the military emulating the satanic ways of doing things. You know, you have rank. The more powerful, the more power you have, the better you are, the more this. So it's climbing higher. To me, that really would seem that the military would be probably the most contaminated place, actually, of everything when it comes to that, because they're all about blood rituals and blood sacrifice and killing and I mean, what you were saying there earlier on is, you know, going to these. I mean, I know what they've done in Africa. You know, I was actually asking to see if you were maybe part of some African team that came here, because I'll tell you what, over the years, the foreign military governments that have been in our country and taken our people out, it's insane. And how does one even think that is coming from a good place? So, you know, how does one think that that is a good thing? When and it just shows again our brainwashing as the average human being on the street. I can understand why they would brainwash and mind control the soldiers going there, because you're forced to carry out orders, and you have to do so with absolutely no emotion, right? So they've dumbed us down on the street, making us believe that you guys are in there keeping peace with great big military vehicles. How stupid is that? I mean, come on. How do we think that is even happening, that it's a peaceful negotiation? There's no peace with that. It's all fear and deception and full of force. It's crazy, right? I mean, one just sits here, and it's like you say, Alex, you know, you go there, and when you wake up, it has to be the most traumatic thing, because as a soldier, and I mean, I know our guys, like I grew up in the height of apartheid, right? Our guys had to go into forced military for 2 years. They were sent to the borders to fight these terrorists, protecting the innocent women and children at home. Wow. And a few years later, they start speaking, and we start hearing what has really been happening in the military. It's actually very, very soul destroying. And then you also think that these guys that go in there think they're protecting their countries, and only to realize you're fighting for this disgusting apartheid regime that is probably the most sick system that ever existed. Wow.
Absolutely. Look, one of the things that has angered me the most is understanding why we have war, and then the realization of what they're doing to young men like myself. You know, They are literally harvesting the alpha males and the patriots out of our society. Yeah. These are the true patriots. These are the people who will run out in front of a bus and die just to save a child that they have never seen or never met before. These are the people who will run out in front of a machine gun nest to save the mate next to them. These are the most pure and genuine people you can find on the face of the planet. They are beautiful, innocent human beings that you will ever meet. All they want to do is help and save other people, and they have an obligation to duty. Once I understood that, all the wars that we have are to harvest these people out of society as a control mechanism, because you can't have alpha males running around within our society, because the things that are happening at this point in time wouldn't be occurring. Absolutely not. I know myself as a 19-year-old young man, with my mates who I joined up with, we wouldn't have stood idly by and done nothing, that's for sure. So just the realisation that the sole reason we have war is to remove the alpha males out of society, so society is easier to control. Obviously, there's a lot of other reasons, understanding that you've just taken place in a satanic death ritual on the opposite side of the planet as a young man, coming back and having an awakening is a hell of a bloody thing in itself. Wow. But what really upset me the most, the harvesting of young men.
I want to understand that more from a military, someone who's been in the military, from your perspective. When you talk about a satanic ritual, how was that for you? Were you actually part of that physically, or did you realize afterwards that it was? I'm trying to just understand the involvement of the average person in terms of in the military.
Yeah, sure. Look, no, I've never been a part of anything physical in a satanic nature at all in my entire life. I served with absolute, genuine patriotism. I mean, overall, one of the secondary reasons we have war is obviously for a death ritual. It's to keep the population down as well. Primary role is, it's like I said, is a control mechanism. Keep the alphas out of society. You've got your death ritual, and then you've also got all the other stuff going on in the background too. Wanting more land, money, harvesting the actual humans out of those countries, and so forth as well. But no, myself, I've never actually seen, witnessed, or been a part of anything satanic in nature ever.
But when you look at it in the macrocosm of things, you see how it is so part of the sick satanic system, as you say, literally harvesting human energy by creating wars,
Absolutely.
getting people that think, deceiving young men into thinking that they are fighting for their country, that they are being patriots, that they are upstanding and protecting the women and children, and the vulnerable, only to realize that the main mission is to get you as the alpha male, the strong guy that's going to go out there and be physical and fight, and only to find out that the intention is to root you out of society, so that they have more power over the vulnerable. How sick! And it makes such perfect sense. Wow.
It really does. And just thinking, it makes so much sense, that whole idea that they're targeting alpha males in society. And it's interesting looking at, people returning from service too, because, what were our alpha males are coming back and they've got, PTSD, post-traumatic stress. They're going through this awakening, like, what the hell have I literally been a part of? And then there's the other area, which is, people that are coming back that have actually been recruited into this evil system and have, through brainwashing, through selling themselves out, etc., I no longer think it's such a bad thing, child rape material or drugs being trafficked or people being murdered. And, you know, we hear so many stories about ex-military here in Australia being involved with ASIO, involved in community operations of MK Ultra that are in communities. So, you know, we've got these poor, you know, veterans that are coming back struggling. And then on the other hand, there's this group that have just completely dived into this alternate structure, like satanic world, and come back and make the most of it as well and continue. They don't ever really finish serving.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, for the elites, if you want to call them that, it's a double win for sending broken soldiers back to Australia, because what happens is we come back with post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, drug and alcohol abuse for self-medication, then very complex physical injuries. You've got to remember the job that we are doing and the roles that we're training to do are quite physical. We are war fighters, so you are going to get hurt a lot. So the guys that come back, they usually get out there broken psychologically and physically. What happens after that is we go back into our normal lives. We destroy that. You know, we lose our jobs, our marriages break down. You lose your kids, you lose your house, and descend into just utter, absolutely self-destructive behaviour patterns. And then to top it off, the rehabilitation services that are offered to you is pharmaceutical drug. That's basically it. Everything revolves around the industry. It's quite sick in nature. One of the hard things we did was go through 6-7 years of hardcore psychotropic drug and opiate use. It was one of the most horrible parts of my entire life. So look, it's a double-edged win for our human farmers, because, you know, they get the soldiers to go and conduct their activities for them. Then we send the broken soldiers back out into society to infect society, create a cancer around it, and bring down even more people within that society.
Exactly.
And just the second thing from what you said, Gabbi, as well, you do have that other class of people who do go to the other side, and I've met quite a few of them. A lot of us, we would come back and join the police. Obviously, it's a natural pathway for a soldier. Getting out of the military, it's just a normal process to go into the police force. I know quite a few policemen who I served with, unfortunately, who went on to be convicted of pedophilia and that nature of stuff. Is quite sickening and horrific, and it's very damaging to the human psyche. That not only did I stand beside these people, I quite admired them and got along very well with them, and I would have given my life for these people at one point in time. It's just sick what was happening on the other side of the curtain. As a very young, naive soldier, it really makes it's quite. Yeah, it makes you sick to the stomach. It is really just revolting. But yeah, you're spot on with both of the things you've mentioned.
Yeah. How long did you spend serving, Alex? Because I'm just thinking you went in so young at 19, which is so very common. Yeah. And what were your decisions around moving or leaving or?
Yeah, sure. I only served for about 8 years. The reason I discharged out of the military or out of the army was because I was having a mental breakdown at the time, and I couldn't receive any help within the army. I had been sent off to get a psych evaluation and by a civilian psychiatrist, which was probably a good thing at the time. The report came back that I had the early warning signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, insomnia, and just required some basic treatment. After that report came back, I visited my regimental aid post to basically see what the pathway forward for me was, and I instructed that I had situational stress and I was to ignore that report and to go back to work and basically to harden the fuck. So that's what I did to the best of my ability. Probably 6 months after that, I basically made the decision that it was time to get out. I hadn't slept. My insomnia was so bad, I was going to work and I was unsure if I was awake or asleep. And this had been occurring for 6 months. And I'm still operating quite won't go into details. I don't want to expose my unit. You're operating weapon systems, conducting yourself as an active combat soldier on a daily basis, and you're not sure if you're awake or asleep. That's how long it's been since you've actually been asleep. So it was time to get out at that stage. Plus, I'd had a few other things occur. I myself was also raped while serving in the military. It was a pretty tough thing. One of the tipping points was realising that no one cared. I'd been drugged and raped by, I'm not sure exactly who, but I reported to my sergeant major the next morning and said, look, I think something's happened. I've definitely been drugged. I've had my drink spiked. And obviously after being raped, you know when you've been raped and you are not in a very good psychological state at that point. I was basically laughed at, told to have a teaspoon of cement, and I was sent off to have a drug test. The drug test came back negative.
Of course it did.
One of the medics said, look, sometimes it gets out of your system quick. When I went and spoke to a superior, they pushed it under the carpet, and I was just sent back to work. I went and had a shower and just continued on task. I tried to push that to the back of my mind and just pretend that never happened, basically, because there was no one to talk to and no one cared.
Sure. Wow.
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's just awful. I hear so many reports of this happening and the cover up within the service as well. And, just to hear it direct from someone. Yeah, it's just absolutely awful.
Alex, I'd like to ask you, it's clear they do a lot of grooming in the military, from what I'm hearing you say. And are you aware of any actual mind control programs that they are using there to program their soldiers, that you know of? Or is it more the subtle grooming process, and they would then lure you in? I would imagine what must be quite common there as well is that through the subtle grooming, they lure you in, and they would probably get the guys drunk and get them doing things, talking about things, taking pictures, blackmailing them. It's pretty similar to every other system, I would imagine.
Yeah, I've never had any personal experience or come into contact with any actual physical mind control programs, MK Ultra style things ever. I would say more to the second half of what you've just said. It's the subtle indoctrination through drugs, alcohol, and sex that would bring them in, and I imagine that's how they recruit. And I absolutely know, without a shadow of a doubt, that's the truth.
Yeah. We also know that, the military, which is actually what owns Big Pharma, or vice versa, they're the same, has always had a very tight pairing with Big Pharma, with with various medications being rolled out to people while they're serving. I'd be interested to hear, in Iraq, did you have a lot of extra shots for various reasons, or was it various pharmaceuticals that they were prescribing while people were away that you think might have been influencing, making them more susceptible to this indoctrination process as well?
Yeah, look, I couldn't actually specifically tell you how many. As a young combat soldier, I didn't really particularly care at that stage. I didn't realise what were, and I just wanted to do my job. So we'd just rock up to regimental aid post. If we were supposed to get injections, we'd be just like, hurry up and jam them in, because I want to go back to work. We didn't care. We really didn't care what they put in. We were soldiers, and our training made us psychologically want to do our job and not care about anything else, including our bodies or what went into them. just lack of education.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Turning you into little robots. Yeah.
Look, after the amount of research I've done in the last, say 5 to 7 years about different drugs, compounds, and effects that they have on our bodies and minds, and I'll even go one further and say our souls, absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind, some of the things that are pumped into us were definitely to dull us down and to be more accepting of particular things and situations and certain mindsets, for sure.
Do the soldiers ever recover from that though, those jabs and things that they just and yeah, we've often spoken about that. So let's say you come home and now you 5 years later haven't been back to the military, you're married with kids or whatever. Does those doses of whatever jabs they're giving you ever wear off?
I bloody hope so, because I've been doing my best to try and detoxify my mind, body, and soul for the last few years, and I really, really hope so. I do believe that if we're at a high vibration and we're looking after our environment externally and internally of our bodies, that I think the human body's adaptable enough to evolve past and push out whatever is inside of me.
Absolutely.
I don't think I could be as clear thinking as I am, and continually evolving too. I feel better about life. I know tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm going to be stronger than I was today. So I'm going to say yes, but I'm just putting it out there. Fingers crossed.
That's it. Our bodies have an amazing capacity to heal when we put them in the right situation.
Totally. They're designed to heal themselves. And I think it's amazing. And it all starts with that, as you say, that spiritual connection. And from there, just to live that amazing life in harmony with earth, spirit, nature. Take care of yourself, take care of each other. And, I do believe it absolutely is designed to heal itself. And it will do so as we evolve. I'm always amazed by so much. It's like hard to imagine, when we as the general public are looking at our military soldiers doing these operations and, this high level tech stuff that, wow, you're so admired for, by your countrymen that you're protecting. And it's really for us as the public to know that that's what they put you guys through. It's heartbreaking for me to know that our soldiers have been through that and that we've been lied to into believing that we're sending our sons to protect our country. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, this is what's going on. Let me tell you, as a mother, now I think, when we look at stuff like this, and it was very interesting because I researched this a few years ago, and if you're into Christianity and stuff like that, you just look at the crucifixion of Christ, and you look at Christ's mother standing at the cross. She was the one there that never left, that kept giving him water and sponging him down and what have you. And as a mother, we send our kids to take care of the country, and we're proud. These are boys we're sending to serve our country. And this is what they are doing to our sons. Wow.
Yeah. That
is infuriating. That is just horrific. The deception all around. The deception, the betrayal. And again, this is why I say, anyone who thinks that this planet is not governed by Luciferians and who use this to push their agenda really needs to think again. Because when we look at the deception and the lies, The shadowy aspect is all about lies and deception. And yeah, they take in our alpha males from all over the globe, putting them into these disgusting self-created situations, deceiving us into believing that we need our alpha males to protect us. And this is what happens. And they, as you say, send back these broken men. Now, I know from the South African Defence Force as well. I mean, you have to know in the apartheid era, we had one of the top defense forces. Yep. You have to see how these guys were trained and the military stuff they went through. 2 years later, they would come home. You didn't recognize these guys. They were broken. Wow. And then, the pictures of the sick things that were going on the borders and the stories we would hear afterwards. And it's like now, South Africa's got a very heavy drinking culture. And I'm wondering if the Australians maybe would find a similar thing, actually, because with the male, and it's like they never talk about their experiences on the border. We call it the border when they went to fight, protecting us from these terrible people. They never talk about it, very seldom. So it's something that is kept in here, and not in a, I mean, it's not good for anyone. It's not good for relationships. It's not good as a partner, as a father, I don't know. I'd be interested to know your take on that.
Yeah, definitely. Look, probably first of all, I'll just jump back one before the alcohol culture. I still got a lot of hope for our soldiers and our veterans, because there's a lot of beautiful men and women out there that do serve. And even though they are broken, I just see my own healing journey and my own rehabilitation, and that gives me a lot of hope, and it makes me feel really good inside, because if I can do it, anyone can do it. I was very, very disturbed in the head and very broken man when I got out of the army. I had post-traumatic stress, major depressive disorder, drug and alcohol issues. I had so many physical complex injuries. It's not funny. I got a dent in my head that almost killed me, destroyed all the vertebrae in my neck, lower back, brachial plexus neuropraxia, left side, completely paralyzed the left arm, left hip, left knee, right knee as well. Shattered the left foot, destroyed the left wrist. I've got a bit of shrapnel in one of my eyes. Plus, you've got all the EMF exposure that you go through, then the nuclear, biological, chemical elements you come into contact, then all the backup of that, plus the military indoctrination. You don't get untrained out of the military. You get trained to get into it. You don't get untrained to become a civilian again. If I can go through all that and be who I am today, I absolutely still have faith and hope for every single man and woman that serves. And I think there's a beautiful future if we can get the right people in the right places to start implementing and creating support mechanisms to help these people. I actually think that these are the people we need to be targeting, the broken and the destroyed, because they have already lived through hell. You know what? COVID's not the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching the planet get locked down, it's not the hardest thing I've done. Watching people die, it's not the hardest thing I've done. We need to find more people like me and start loving them and getting around and supporting them, because we're going to need these people later on. So if you're out there and you know who's broken and struggling, get around them, start supporting them, because they will give you back 10 times whatever you give them, I guarantee. Real patriots, that's what they do. You give them $1, they'll give you 10 back every time, every day of the week, and they will show up every day too. So I still got a lot of hope, and
that's beautiful.
That's my main focus in life, is trying to give that to other people as best as I can.
And
secondly, you're right.
No, carry on. Sorry.
I was just going to address the alcohol culture. Obviously, there's a massive alcohol culture in probably every military on the earth. And that's just, again, that's another control mechanism. It's no different to nicotine or coffee or anything like that. Use alcohol as a reward system. It dumbs you down. It shuts down your prefrontal cortex. You are more suggestible to things. It's just another control mechanism. we all know that the human farmers that run this planet use these modalities to keep us dumbed down. It's lobotomizing ourselves, and they don't even have to do anything. We'll do it ourselves. It's all through the subconscious programming, human behavior modification, and it's basic stuff, but it's very effective. It is. The alcohol, for myself personally, was a massive problem. I was a fully blown alcoholic, absolutely full-blown alcoholic at the age of 25. It was a horrendous thing to go through. You know, I couldn't sleep for 6 months. I couldn't get any sleeping tablets, and I couldn't get any help to actually try and rehabilitate myself to even just sleep. So you turn to whatever drug and modality you have available to you at the time, and alcohol being the most common drug, easiest to get on the planet, is the one that all soldiers turn to. And obviously, we train hard, we work hard, and we drink hard. It's just part of the culture. It's probably one of the worst drugs on the planet. It really is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Gateway drug for everything. I've always said, people always said marijuana is the gateway drug. Rubbish, rubbish, rubbish. Alcohol and cigarettes. Yeah. Those are the gateway drugs that open up doors.
It's not just the gateway drug to other drugs. They're the gateway drug to destroying your mental health, becoming a wife beater, losing your children, destroying your job, losing your house, becoming obese, becoming sick, destroying your own body and your mind, and then destroying everyone's mind and body around you too. You become somewhat of a cancer and a drain on society. So
exactly.
One of the worst things on the planet.
Well, if you look at it, alcohol, I mean, I have not seen anything more destructive than alcohol. Just look at how many drunk drivers have been on the roads and killed and maimed others, okay? Which probably would have been avoided had it not been like that. If you look at the amount of domestic violence that happens in the name of alcohol, if you look at the amount of addiction that happens in the name of alcohol, it is truly the most destructive drug on the planet, and it's freely available.
So easy to get.
And it's freely available. And then you get things like, for example, and I'm a great believer, I think if it comes from the earth, if God has given us something from the earth, such as your CBDs, your THC, the marijuana, the oils, etc., and the plant medicines, I'm a great believer in that. If it's done in moderation, and if it's done with the right intention is everything. It's a medicine, so the plants can be your healer. If you allow it, then you won't need anything. But of course, all of that has become illegal, right? Suddenly these guys make all of the teacher plants and all the plant medicines illegal because, but we can take pharmaceutical drugs. Oh boy, you can be taking 30 pills a day of pharmaceutical drugs, but you're not considered a drug addict, right? You're not considered a drug addict then. It's more control.
Yeah, it is more control. After I got out of the army and was struggling, I was on 13 different medications 3 times a day. So I took 39 tablets every single day for years and years and years. And I could still drive my motor car. I still had my license. I was still allowed to conduct myself as a normal person in society, absolutely off my face on pretty much pharmaceutical grade heroin. It's
opiates.
It's crazy stuff. Yeah, the opiates, and then chuck all the psychoactive drugs, the antidepressants, the sleeping tablets, the dream suppressants, the tablets to counter the effects of the other tablets. Just insane, absolutely insane. And here I am operating like a normal person in the street. Yet I couldn't go and smoke some plant medicine to go to sleep at night without getting arrested. It's just
exactly. There's
crazy world.
When we look at that, we have to realize there is something so wrong with this equation. And why have we allowed it? Why have we sat back and said that's okay? It's taken COVID for us to wake up. So I saw a very funny meme with Bill Gates the other day, and with him pulling a funny face, and it says, "When you think you try like something about killing the face you make when you think you're killing the world," and then at the bottom, but in actual fact, what you've done is woken them up. So at the end of the day, we were supposed to go and like. All comply to this and all be taken, and but I think we made it very difficult. Those of us that were awake and aware already made it very, very difficult, and still are. I mean, we're certainly not home dry, but I think there's definitely so much more awareness now than what there has been in the last, never mind 5 years, 10, 15, 20 years. When these original whistleblowers started telling these stories, everyone was like, oh no, you don't listen to that nonsense. But now people are listening, and I'm loving that. So I mean, again, it's because of people like you guys that are willing to stand up and tell your story and let the world know, because that awareness creates the healing. Just to be aware. Just be aware and understand there's a lot of people waking up with you, and a lot of people very pissed off at the governments. First, they want to shoot the messenger, right? First, they want to shoot the messenger, and then, okay, they realize it's probably not a good idea. And then they can start letting things integrate and then start taking responsibility for their own lives and those around them. And then rather than be angry and fight with each other, let's unite and walk this walk together, because the less of us who comply, the less they can do what they want with us. That's the whole thing.
So true.
Yeah. Wow.
I was going to ask you, Alex, as well, with PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. We know that that's so common with people returning from serving, and obviously the powers that be like Tavistock have really tapped into that as a way to implement their mind control, both obviously while you guys are away serving, but also on the masses here at home. From what you've seen, because obviously you'd know the people that returned and have come back into society after serving, would you say, like, what sort of percentage would you say of people that have served come back with some sort of PTSD that they have to recover from?
Anyone who served on combat operations of any nature, 100%. You cannot put the human psyche through that level of information absorption in those time frames and process the level, the high intensity level of things being actioned on the ground, and not expect to have post-traumatic stress disorder or it's basic psychology. You go and speak to any psychologist, looking at psychiatry in any sort of form, you can't send the human mind into an environment like that and not untrain them, not give them any gearing down afterwards, push them back out in their society and expect them not to have post-traumatic stress. Like I said, 100% of soldiers have some form of post-traumatic stress, and that's from my own personal, that's my personal view. I became a veteran support officer in a Department of Affairs advocate. I processed 2,000 individual combat soldiers in 1 year on my own. I think that I'm more than qualified to give the answer that I've just given, and I have the documentation and data to support it.
Wow, that's just shocking. It makes so much sense. But just to think that 100% of people that serve in the military are coming back with PTSD, are not in a good place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and yet where are the services to help reintegrate these people?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of these soldiers don't even realise that they have some form of disability or actually needs addressing. A lot of them are still, they're fully functioning. They are fully functioning soldiers still. And I take my hat off to them because I know how hard it is, but every single one I know has an issue of some sort.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess culture is just to push yourselves, you know, it's like that super soldier, like get it done, like the job's the most important, like I'll push through this pain, put down, you know, don't worry about these feelings, just keep going. And you know, that is literally what all the underlying PTSD eventually comes up.
Oh, 100%. Look, when I was serving, the way we were trained around mental health was if you have a mental health condition, you are either weak or you are a malingerer. And that's it. There was no other in-betweens. That was all. Yeah. So it's really, it's no surprise why so many blokes blow their heads off and hang themselves in the back shed when we get back, because you're either weak or a malingerer, and that's it. There was nothing else. So.
Yeah, well, that's the programming, isn't it? Like they've they've given you this program, like you're the problem. It's not everything that's happened over here, or the fact that we've run you like into the ground for your whole career. You're the problem. Deal with it. So what do these people have left? How disgusting, how satanic, really. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I so agree. And again, just another way, and then, you know, Alex, what you were saying earlier on, you know, and it really struck a chord with me when you said it's their way of literally rooting out the alpha males in society. Yeah. So then they'll send home the very split, because let's face it, you know, we are born of love. We are born to create. That's the essence of God's energy that gives us life. But that through these things is split. It is not natural to blow other human beings into 7,000 different pieces with as many high-powered weapons as you possibly can find. It's not natural in our spirit to do that. I mean, the level of fear which the guys are exposed to. You know, I remember our guys would talk about these mortar bombs. They'd be in tents, and they'd hear the mortar bombs just dropping around them. The fear that they're exposed to as well is just on another level. So you're sending home these young men who are so split and so shattered, have done so many things completely against their God-given nature. Yeah. And now, okay, go home and deal. You've got your wife and your 3 babies waiting for you at home, and go and be a good daddy. Wow. I mean, it's impossible. Let's think about that. It's impossible. So,
and the crazy thing, sorry, the crazier thing about what you've just said is that there is some really simple solutions to help these men and women when they come back. The solutions are so easy and basic to implement. It's not even funny. If someone like me can come up with support mechanisms that basically, you know, not cure, but certainly push people along their healing pathway. I have no financial assets, no resources or anything like that. I'm just one man and I can do it. You can't tell me that the Australian government and the entire Australian Defence Force don't have the assets and resources to help every single one of these people with very basic solutions. It's very easy to implement.
Exactly.
I'm talking stuff, you know, it really is. It's quite disgusting that they don't.
Well, I read the other day the Australian government spends $3 million a day, and this was ASPI, which is a really corrupt military think tank, bragging about this $3 million a day on our defence. And they can't implement anything to take care of people coming home with PTSD. Like, what a load of crap. Where's all that money going, other than to all the defence contractors?
Yeah. And, you know, Gabby, look, when our soldiers come back and we have to send them off to mental health units in Australia to get treatment, rehabilitation, on a first hand, it can cost anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500 a day. And what generally happens to a soldier is they'll go in and stay for at least 30 days. So you do the math on that. That's an extraordinary amount just for one soldier. And someone might go and do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stints for a month at that sort of cost. And the only thing that they're actually receiving there is pharmaceutical drug. Not getting fuck all, pardon the language. You're not getting much else apart from that. they're getting indoctrinated further and further into the system. Every time you go there to get support and rehabilitation, you come out on more medication than what you entered. So the entire military industrial complex is the military medical education bloody complex. It's one of the things that they could have used a fraction of that amount of money to actually give these guys some basic support mechanisms when they get back from overseas and continue their careers in the military. There's no reason you need to take a soldier out of the army because he has PTSD. If he's got the right support around him and has the medical resources available to him, there's absolutely no reason to be discharging these people. Absolutely none. But again, the modalities that are used are there surely to just break you and destroy you even further. And when you get out as a veteran in civilian street and you engage with these services, they are horrendous. They are bloody sick. They're absolutely disgusting. And that's about all I can say about them. I'd really love to mention some medical, actually, some of the facilities and specifically what they've done, but unfortunately I signed indemnity waivers that I'm not going to speak out about them, but it's quite horrendous that they just drugging us to death. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to hear about your solutions, Alex, before we finish up, because I thought you said you had some really easy to implement solutions, and just for all of us in the community who know, it's a lot of survivors of ritual abuse and child sexual abuse are under the PTSD, I guess, category as well. So I imagine that these would transfer across quite easily as well. But yeah, I'd love to hear your solutions as well.
Look, absolutely. The three main things that any individual needs to regulate the most if they're suffering is food, sleep, and medication. And it's that simple. If you can regulate these three things, everything else in your life will evolve on its own. You don't actually need to focus on specific things like my fitness, my wife, my XYZ. You don't need to actually worry about those things at all. Worry about your food, your sleep, and your medication. Food, eat basic good food. Everyone knows what good food is. You don't need to be a nutritionist to work out what's good and what's not. Don't eat shit. Don't eat takeaway food. Eat on a regular basis. Your brain needs food, so you got to have brain food. Get up and eat breakfast. Eat properly. You don't need to be a genius to work that one out. Sleep is a huge thing. Absolutely huge. Yes, I understand that pharmaceutical drugs are not preferred, but sometimes they are necessary to at least get you a decent night's sleep until you can find natural mechanisms and supplements to help you along the way. And medication, when I say medication, I'm not just talking about drug medication, pharmaceutical medication. Obviously, you want to regulate those and you want to be taking them at the same time every day once you've got food in your stomach and a whole range of other things. But the other medicines that you're taking, the caffeine you drink that shuts down 52% of your prefrontal cortex, most people don't even recognise that. What drugs and alcohol are you consuming? Are you smoking as well? Anything that you consume, that you put into your body that is not from a natural source is classified as medicine. So just eat right, try and sleep properly, get into your circadian rhythms, understand your sleep cycles, have a healthy sleeping pattern as best you can, and control the medicine and regulate it. If you can get all three of those things regulated properly, the rest of your life will evolve on its own. You won't actually have to focus on any of the small individuals. Food, sleep, medication, regulate those, your life will change. I'll add one more.
Lots of water.
Water. That's with your food and medicine. Well, one of the best things I've found and solutions that anyone can implement, it's actually changed my entire life, is understanding subconscious programming, how to implement it, and knowing the basics around human behavior modification. There's some really simple tricks you can do by, for instance, waking up first thing in the morning. Your brain is in a theta state, so it's going to absorb everything in its environment and it's going to project an emotional state into your prefrontal cortex, in your conscious mind, and that will give you your emotions for the day. Basically, you will copy and emulate anything that your subconscious picks up on, whatever is repetitive in your environment. So something basic that anyone can do, and you can do it tomorrow morning. I do it every single day of the week, 7 days a week. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I've had a cup of water and gone to the toilet, I sit down and do a 15-minute subconscious reprogram. And all it is positive affirmations. It's just a meditation. And that on its own will change your life. You will not be able to stop yourself from achieving and doing better in life.
Absolutely. Fully agree. Fully agree. It's wonderful.
So powerful.
Yeah. I would just like to ask you one final question, because we are out of time, and it's always enjoyable talking to you guys, but all good things need to end, I guess. Where are you at now? Have you met someone? Do you have a family? Are you good with where you're at? Just interested on a more personal note.
Sure. No, actually, I'm single. I have no children. Strangely enough, the only thing I ever wanted to do my entire life is be a dad, and I haven't been blessed with that yet. But hey, there's a few good years left in me yet. Where I'm at the moment, the last 12 months, I got trapped in Victoria for 6 months. I flew down for a holiday at the wrong time. All the borders closed behind me. So I got trapped down in Victoria for 6 months, and I started setting up cooperatives and organisations so people can become self-governing and self-evolving. Basically, I build small teams. That's what I do. And ever since that lockdown in Victoria, I've travelled Australia, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm mentoring people to build teams, and not just build them for anything specifically. Well, if you want to become sovereign, then you need a team. You can't do it on your own. So that's what I do. The last few months, I've been with our First Nations people and in their communities, trying my best to help the original people of this country, because we need what they have, and they need us to help get there. And that's true sovereignty. Just like to give a shout out to those brothers too, David Cole, Loompa from up in the Northern Territory, bloody great man, good brother of mine too. So, get behind some of those brothers. The black and white tribes have got to merge in this country. We absolutely got to merge.
I love it.
So true. I love that too.
I so look forward to that happening in Africa as well, when we just merge. Just merge.
It'll be a beautiful day.
Yeah, look forward. At the end of the day, we're all the same underneath the skin, right? And that's what we need to all come to realize. So, absolutely. Wow. Alex, Gabbi, and Morné, thank you for joining us today, Alex. It's been a very, very interesting conversation. And as always, it's just so eye-opening. I'm amazed. I'm so often amazed at myself when I listen to some of our guests speak. And like today, for example, you'll come up with this understanding of the military, and it just gives me a deeper perspective of just the deception involved and the cognitive dissonance we have when it comes to seeing the truth. And I'm so grateful for people like yourself who just help to lift another layer of the veil and just help us understand even that much more what is really going on. And as I said, in the military, I mean, we know the military is dodgy when we look at it and you understand what it's about, but just, the deception with which our guys are drawn in and what have you. But thank you so much for that. Really shed a lot of light. And I don't know if there's anything you'd like to say just in closing before we end off.
No, not unless you have any more questions. Just that it's a pleasure to be here. I've never actually spoken out public. It's probably about time I start bloody well doing.
Yeah, so happy that you were here with us to do that. That's it's a privilege for us, really. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. I know that your story is going to help so many people, people that haven't heard of this, and also, I hope it reaches some veterans that, maybe don't know where to turn, and gives them hope as well. So I appreciate so much you coming on and sharing your story with such articulation and authenticity.
Yeah,
Thanks.
indeed.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I very much appreciate the work that you've been doing too, love. It's quite incredible and very inspiring. So
No,
please
thanks.
keep. We got your back, and we love what you do.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Gabs.
Us Aussies, us southern land people need to stick together.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay, guys and girls, thank you so much for watching another episode of Focus on Australia, here on Aquarius Rising Africa. Always amazing just to hear what's going on there with you guys, and always appreciate you sharing your lives, your stories, for the world to hear, and ultimately be that part of the healing process. Really, really, really appreciate that. So take good care of yourselves, everybody. God bless you all. If you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. Find us on Facebook, BitChute, Twitter, Telegram, ODYSEE. I think all over. We're all over. You always find us. We're Aquarius Rising. And also, what I want to just say is we're not just Aquarius Rising. If you're going to look for us under Aquarius Rising, we're being very hectically shadow banned at the moment. Okay, just please know that. It's Aquarius Rising Africa. If you're going to look for Aquarius Rising, you're going to find 1,000 astrology programs or whatever. Our channel is Aquarius Rising Africa with the Roman numeral 2 behind it. So maybe look at that. A lot of people have said you can't find us. Maybe that's why. So just don't forget to add the Africa. Okay. Take good care. We'll see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.